you new in sales? Are you struggling to build relationships and rapport with people in your work business? Bryce and Jay here. We're going to talk and unpack about making a lasting first impression. So I'm going to pass it over to my man Bryce and kick us off with, what you think will really lead to great first impressions and relationship and rapport building in sales.
Yeah, let's hit it off with a quick 7 ways to do this. We've basically been doing it a long time, so let's get right into it. Basically, the first thing that you need to do is you got to show interest. Be genuinely interested with the other person. You got to ask open-ended questions and actively listen. Actively listen doesn't mean you say, "Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah." It's repeating back what the customer is saying. So if the customer is saying, "Oh, I'm looking for a vehicle that is good for your family." Okay, so you're looking for a family vehicle. That is actively listening. It's spitting back what they told to you. And the more you do that, the more trust is going to be. Show empathy and try to understand their point of view always. Do you have anything to add to that, Jay?
Yeah, I think those are great points to it. I'm going to take it back one more step to that first impression is actually before you even speak, and it's a visual first impression. So, you talked about just being attentive and listening, but think about this. Think about where you are sitting or standing in your place of work. Are you in the Shark Tank with a bunch of other salespeople? And the customer just walks into the room, and all of a sudden you turn around and you start salivating and going, yes, the next big sale is coming in, and then you disband from the rest of the sharks. First impression, they think you're absolutely out to get their money. The other one is that I like to be cognizant of is we're so connected to our phones, we're checking leads, we're following up on emails, whatever it may be. But that first impression, again, when your head is down, the customer might be like, oh, well, not interested in me, or they're on Facebook, or they're checking out this latest YouTube video, whatever it may be. You immediately take it down 2 pegs and can make a negative first impression without even speaking.
And let's go further there. How long does it take to make a first impression?
Oh,
milliseconds.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
How long does it take to break what that first impression is?
It'd be hours, days, weeks.
It might not ever happen. It is a complete uphill battle. Sorry. So when you're at work, and to touch back on your point, because you're right, that is the first thing. What's your body language? Not only where are you sitting, what are you doing? Are you slumped like this? Like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, I don't want to be here. I drank too much last night. Are you sitting like this? Is your legs up? What is your body language saying? Because so much of what we do is not with actually the words that are coming out of our mouth, right? Most of our communication is the facial expressions, our body language. Is your shirt tucked in? Are your shoes polished? Are you taking care of your appearance? Because in sales, you need to take care of your appearance. Because like Jay said, it's like milliseconds to build that first thought, and then you're an uphill battle. So a couple of things too, even to touch on that, is no strong cologne or perfume. Nothing loud. Don't wear a Rolex. If you can afford it, wear it outside of work. Don't wear anything flashy. You're not here in sales. You're not a model, right? Like, just keep it plain. Like, look good, but don't overdo it. Always it's like there's like this rule. It's like 10% better dressed than your clientele. If you're selling Hondas, you don't want to be in a Gucci suit with a Rolex, because that is a great recipe of someone not trusting you and thinking you're sleazy as all heck.
Yeah, I think you're talking, again about mirroring your customer too, right? And you can't redefine every single customer that comes in that door. So to kind of match what you are selling is a really good call out. I really like that. And then from there, mirroring the customer can get more into that verbal communication and build that rapport up through verbal.
Totally.
So
like, yeah, absolutely. Like mirroring is like, it's huge, right? Because the reality of the psychology behind sales is that people like to deal with people like themselves. And it goes back to the caveman days, right? Like where it's like, you're like me, I trust you. And people like talking about themselves. So if you mirror them, you mirror their energy, you mirror everything about them, they're going to have a hard time not liking you. It's like it's the simple stuff, and it takes some practice, and at first it's going to feel awkward, and you're going to be like, oh, they know I'm mirroring them. So like when they put their hands on their hips and you kind of mirror that, like there's that whole body language mirroring, and I've done it and I feel like they know, they've caught on, but they haven't. Like it's very
still
subtle.
Comfortable.
Yeah, you just have to, and it just takes time. Keep doing it, keep practicing it. It's not going to work right away for you, and you're not going to see the results, but always right away, right? Like it's these little things that happen in our brains that we don't even think about that are so important.
Yeah.
To catching someone's trust.
And when you start thinking about, being sincere when you are communicating with that customer, I'd love to get your thoughts on like how do you make sure that you're being sincere and authentic when you're selling a product to the customer?
I mean, I feel like you have to find some way to agree with whoever they are, or whatever they're about. Like, it's really about being in agreement with your customer, and it can be tough, right? Because everybody's got different ideas and politics and the way they think and stuff like that. But it's really about finding that common ground, no matter what it is. You can always find some sort of common ground with your customer. It might be something that their shoes. It might be the car that they drove in on, the phone they've got, their kids. They might be wearing a soccer jersey. There's something, and you just got to be genuine about it. Like because people truly will pick up on people not being genuine. So like you have to find something that you genuinely have a connection with. And it can be tough, and like as you do it more and more, it gets a lot easier and easier, and you just be sincere about what you're saying. You don't say, oh, nice football jersey. Oh yeah, I'm a huge football fan. And you've never watched football before. They might not on purpose, but they're gonna like, oh, so you caught this game, or what about this player this year? And how's this season going? And who's your favorite team? And who's your favorite player? You got nothing to back it up. So be careful with what you do. It has to be sincere, right? Like, but there's a million different things, and be careful in which way you do it. Like, if you're a male, and you're trying to connect with a female, don't say, oh, nice shirt, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful. Like, nice purse. Do. That's a wonderful purse, right? Like, don't go into certain scenarios. Don't get into politics. Don't get into government. Like, I mean, the same thing, right? But like, don't get into religion. Like, there's definitely spots of don't do's, and spots of, let's go with this, and I can connect with this person over this.
I fully agree. Lots of great points in there. I think too, you really need to do a gut check. And I think there's, that will bring out sincerity, because in the end, you need to love to sell. Right. Yes. And so if you're like, because maybe you're forced into a canned thing you need to ask, even if it's canned and it's forced upon you based off, a sales procedure or whatever, you can still be really sincere, and it come across a very natural way if you love to sell. So I think a lot of people, when they feel pressured, or they feel like they're really trying hard to build that rapport up. I think you sometimes have to just do a self-reflection and say, like, am I actually cut out for this? Like, do I really love to sell? Because if every day you are dreading going into work, or you're putting on a really fake mask, like, here's personal me and here's work me.
Totally.
And that work me is really exhausting you. If like you're going home every day and you're just exhausted, it's that work mask that you're pretending to be sincere and be happy and be all these things. And I think there's sometimes just an opportunity for a gut check, because again, sincerity does have to come from the heart, and if it's fake, people see fake pretty easily.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
would say
kind of
so.
my add-on for that, for
Yeah, I
sure.
like that. And let's kick it off like this. Next point is using positive language. And I'd like to know what your thoughts on positive language in a sale.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always key words that you should certainly try to leverage that generate excitement, like latest, greatest, or cutting edge, future proof. Like the LCF factor, which people would be like, what is he talking about?
I'm thinking like I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's the look cool factor, man. Like, hey, you want this new ride? You got to make sure you got the LCF in this sucker, because if you don't, I mean, but there's catch words and there's catch things that generate emotion. And so
Yes.
when you are pitching something or you're trying to generate that rapport, you're also trying to entice and generate some excitement, because
Totally.
they're there for a product, and you're the gatekeeper to the product to make sure they're getting the right solution, all that kind of stuff. But if you generate some of those excitements, it starts building and building and building. As you're building that rapport, you're building that trust, and you haven't even shown the product yet. And that's where it's really just it's game time. So
Totally.
I definitely think words matter.
Yes.
And also too, going back to mirroring, like if they're excited and you talked about being down and like you're
Body
hungover or
language.
whatever,
Yep.
you literally deflate the trust, the relationship, and the rapport, because they're excited. Like, you might have sold this product
Totally.
a thousand times over. You've made the pitch 1,000 times.
Yeah.
This is their first
time.
time ever. And if you deflate that, boo on you. You shouldn't be in sales, because you're deflating their experience, and they're gonna walk because you just destroyed that trust and that first impression.
Or even if they don't walk and they buy it, it's just not going to feel good, right? Like it's going to be like one of those things like, oh, I should be excited. And like I think that you make a great point about that. It's that no matter how many times we do it as salespeople, you got to bring that energy. And energy is very contagious. So and that goes to on another point, is that if you've got a customer who's not all that happy, let your energy break through, because it will. But if you're negative and you're down, you're slumped, well, do you think that customer is going to be motivated enough and have that energy to be excited and pumped? Like, when you buy something and how exciting it is, you're just like, yeah, like you feel like this high, and you're like, yeah, I'm so pumped, right? Like, but if you're as a salesperson and this low energy, how are they supposed to get to that high and that buying? And remember that like everything that we buy as consumers, a lot of it, none of it, we just don't need it, right? It's a want over a need. So you got to connect to that. So definitely great. Another thing that I want to talk about, and I mean, I've made it pretty clear that, like mental health is pretty important to me, and I go to counseling and that kind of stuff. So, and I know for sure this works. It's share information about yourself. It just creates this comfort thing. And like for me, like, I'll put it into a terms, I'm actually doing it right now, but like basically with my anxiety is that, I've gone to my doctor, and my doctor will ease my anxiety with saying things like, oh yeah, this happens to me, and I felt this before. And I instantly, like, I trust my doctor, like, and it's because of those things. And it's the same with my counselor. She will many a times kind of go back into like things of her life and how she's dealt with and overcome certain things and have felt the way that I feel. And I think that like it's such a good connection. And I know that I do it with my customers all the time myself. So I just wanted to kind of give you just ideas of how it works outside of sales, and like, like every type of whatever you're in, like type of business it in, definitely relate your experiences back to the customer, because it creates that common ground, right? It shows that mirror, like, hey, I'm a consumer outside of here, and I know what you're going through, and I know how you feel, and I'm here to help you. Is there anything that you want to add to that? Is about that sharing that like things about yourself? But I also just, before you do, I just want to say is I don't talk about myself very much when I'm selling. It literally is a 95% them and a 5% me. And I'm only going to bring myself up until when it's a needed thing where it's going to help me move forward with my customer.
Yeah. I think
we're,
bottom line, we're all humans, right? And we're all in this together. We all have different stories. And I think when you're selling a product and you're building up trust, your personal experiences can really help validate that. And I think, again, when you're talking about trust, don't be lying. Like, I'm telling you, you use legit, hey, this is what I experienced and I loved it, right? If you have a bad experience with a product or something like that, you got to be pretty transparent, I think, still too, depending on what you're selling, and you want to make sure that trust is never broken. And so I agree with you fully. And I think people just want to connect with people. And I think when you can share and connect your own personal stories, that's not about them, the customer, and me, the salesperson. That's you and me as humans in this great big giant ball.
Totally.
And I feel, like a connection, right?
Yeah,
and that's
sharing connections. Like, hey, like I'm just like you, right? And I think that really needs to be said when you're shopping. It's like, I am a consumer, guys. Like, when I leave these walls, I'm like you, right? And use that, right? Because it's true. Another point, Jay, I want to talk about is diving deep into finding the common ground and looking for shared interests and experiences and beliefs. Like, how do you do that? Like, what is it? Like, what's your go-to thing? Like, what do you look for? Like, let's get into it a little bit more, because it can be like, yeah, let's just find these things. But let's dive into that. Like, what does that look like? Like, how would you do that?
Well, you already mentioned the customer talking 95% of the time, but that comes with open-ended questions, right? I want to tell me more. Bring up, like, what are you looking for this product to do? Just continue to ask questions while compartmentalizing them in your brain to say, I need this information to build the right solution. And so
totally,
I think the best at building the rapport and that trust again is listening and asking fact-finding questions. If someone comes in and says, hey, I need this model, blah, 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 and you go, yeah, it's right over here, and I can sell it to you.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing there. It's like, well, anybody, Amazon can do that. They don't need you for that. And so I think the difference is when you're trying to get really deep into the needs and the wants and making sure the product is right. And it, again, listening to a customer, it will build up the trust, because, like, I haven't had this experience anywhere else. This is awesome.
Totally.
Like, this person's actually paying attention to me.
Yes.
And they're repeating back to me what it is I need. They're paraphrasing, and then they're making a suggestion. Again, trust.
Yep.
And that is gold when it comes to selling. So that's my 2 cents of it. I don't know if you had anything to add to that as well.
Well, I definitely, when I meet someone, I definitely eye them up and I look for commonalities, right? Just because not everybody is open to do the back and forth, and sometimes it can feel like certain people, they might even feel like it's an interrogation process. So you got to be soft with it on certain people, and then other people are just like open to give you their information. And I'm both people. Catch me on a good day, I'll freely give the information. Catch me on a bad day, I'm like, just leave me alone.
I'm just looking.
Yeah, I'm just looking because I'm programmed to say it. But but it's the good salespeople that can turn those people and somehow get them talking, and and that's going to be visual cues, right? So like, for me, being in car sales so much, it's like, oh, I saw you drive in on this Honda Civic. Like, I used to have one, right? Like, oh, or like, oh, this Range Rover. I love Range Rovers, right? Like, and like, it's back to our sincerity. It's a very sincere thing. Or like, maybe they got a pair of Air Force Ones on, right? Like, maybe they got a tattoo about hip hop. I'm super into hip hop. Maybe they got a beer hat. And I'm talking
Nice.
about beer because, beer makes these podcasts a little bit more fun, guys. Like, like sales is fun and we're having a little bit of
Yes.
fun talking about it. So, but yeah, just like finding anything, right? Like it could be anything. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of dive into it. You just kind of throw it out there, but it has to be a respectful thing. Like I said earlier in the podcast video log here, it's like stay away from certain things, right? But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
shoes, jewelry, whatever it might be, just like, people are like they'll talk about it, they'll open up. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
um
think it still comes back to the sincerity. Like we've said
yep,
sincere over and over and over again. And I think sometimes too, I think you have to really make sure you love what you're selling, right? Like
yeah,
because
you got to
if you
believe in
don't,
it.
yeah, you got to believe in it. You got to believe in what you're selling. And if you're not, because that's when the fake comes out. That's when the insincerity, that's when you're going to start making some crap up that you don't
Totally.
really believe. People see through crap. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, are you going to buy from somebody that's like that, but who's being insincere? I won't trust
no,
him. I won't
I
trust him.
won't
I'll
trust them.
walk.
And
I'll walk.
yeah, 100%. And that
Yeah.
deflates the whole sales process. I totally
As a
agree with you.
salesperson, as a sales professional, I have
Hmm.
very high standards of what I believe a salesperson should have and when I'm shopping. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if it's a big purchase, I have some pretty high standards. And
yeah.
if I don't see it, I will walk,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. Yeah,
So
I don't want to. You can't sell a salesperson, as they say, right? And if
yeah.
someone's really bad at it, you're really definitely not going to sell me on it. I will certainly walk
The
unless
only
I
way I'm
absolutely
buying
have to have
is
it.
if
Yeah,
you've got something that I really need and it's at
yeah,
like, or you're the only person that has it, one,
yeah,
or it's at such a ridiculous price that I can't say
yeah.
no to it. But you don't want to be
Yes.
that salesperson.
No.
Like, so what? You can only sell the things that aren't available to other people and they're priced at such ridiculous prices that people will go
Mm-hmm.
through the crap to get them. No, you don't want to be
Yeah.
that sales guy, right? So,
No. No.
um, let's talk quickly about being respectful and showing those things. And I
Mm.
think that like I'll kick this off.
Yeah,
Everybody
please.
has to be treated the same.
Yep.
Like if you're a sales guy and you're trying to make sales, like make sure you're in it for the right reasons. Don't take advantage of people. Always show people respect. Remember that even when people are coming to you upset and it comes to you and you're getting the brunt of it. One thing I've always done is to kill them with kindness. You
Yep.
continue going and you have to remember that like you don't know what's going on with people, right? Like
No.
everybody's got their own lives and everybody has families and people are dealing with ailments and like
Yep.
sicknesses and people are dealing with like maybe someone in their family just died, maybe their kid's
Yep.
sick. Like it's a million different stories. Maybe they had a bad day, maybe their partner just broke up with them. You don't know. Like you have no
Yep.
idea what happened to them before they arrived
Yep.
at your place of business. So you just have to remember that, continue to kill them with kindness, be sincere, be respectful, treat everybody the same. At the end of the day, when I've had really rude customers, 80% of them apologize to me and say I'm
Wow.
sorry for like I was rude, I was this, I was that, I just had a really bad experience. Like you just have no idea, right?
Yeah. I will add something that through experience that I shared with people that I were coaching and you talk about respect and there's a lot of ways to look at that, right? You don't want to profile people. You don't want to say that person can't afford this, that person can't. If you build enough value, people will find ways to build money and you shouldn't profile them. You got to
Yeah.
sell to what the need is. But the one I want to share is that if you're in a place where say a kid's coming in and you're like, well, that kid can't afford the Range Rover or that kid can't afford the cell phone contract, they're not 19 or 18 or whatever it is to sign it up,
Yeah.
pay them the exact same respect as any other customer because even though they're a kid, you know what, they're a little scared to go in these stores and check out the nice Mercedes on the sales lot or something like that, but that's an opportunity to respect
100%.
that kid and just make their day and have a good time. Like, if you got the time to do it, like go chat with them and pay them some attention because guess what? You never know. They may have
Never
rich
know.
parents and I'm not saying do this because they all have rich parents. I'm just saying, you know what? pay respect to people. And guess what? Maybe they come back with their parents and maybe they buy the Mercedes or maybe they buy the brand new phone or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it
You
just
just
goes
never
to say,
know.
you never know. And you should always respect everybody equal. Again, we're all humans. So
Totally. If you disrespect somebody because you look upon them like they're not able to buy, and they actually are because you misjudge their character, they're just them as a person, when they're not coming back to you. You treat them like they can't buy. Like, it's a slippery slope, man. Like, it really is no good. And I mean, I just want to bring that to another point too. Really, like, if you want to build good rapport, you have to avoid combativeness.
Yes.
Not be combative. Do not be the guy who is the IT whiz, the whiz kid, the tech guy who knows the ins and outs of the products and is like, oh, no, actually, it doesn't do that. It does this. Avoid that. Nobody wants that. I'm not saying don't tell your clients what it is. It's just like, no matter what the scenario, that was just one example. Do not do combativeness. You have to approach it another way. You can't be combative with your customers. Do not get into arguments and start it that way. Always see things from their point of view and talk things through. If you're combative, you're basically just throwing your ego has now taken over and you are throwing the sale out the window.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I didn't really think too much about that because even if it comes from like you want to make sure they have the facts and there's a certain way to present it, like hear it, but then bring it up somewhere else in the sales cycle where you can confirm this is what these things have.
Totally.
And so that they self-discover versus that combat.
Exactly.
Right?
So you know what that brings us back to, Jay?
What's that?
The art of the sale.
Yes.
That brings us back to the art of the sale and like how sales is an art and you have to do things the right way, right? That brush needs to be stroked a certain way to be able to basically, let the customer know that the information that they have isn't the correct information and that they need to know that it actually does this, but it's done in the right way and it's not done with combativeness.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think overall, like in a sales process, if you can nail the first impressions and the rapport and trust building early in the sale and do all the right steps, everything else that you are going to process through, whether it's like add-ons or attachments or extended services or whatever it might be, everything becomes a lot easier. So that's why so much energy in the art of sale is that first impression, is that building rapport, building trust, human connection. Because guess what? You won't have to be the hard closer. Like, I better ask them for this sale. They'll be like, let's do it.
I'm buying.
Before you even get a chance.
What do we got to do?
Because, exactly. So,
shut up and take my money.
Yeah. I wasn't always the most aggressive closer, but I was always the best at connecting with people so that they could trust me. And they were quite often just, take my money and I knew I was selling them the right product and they were happy with it and there was going to be no regrets. And so truly the best part you can nail especially if you're new into sales, put the energy into the beginning.
Honestly, it's like, think of an iceberg, right? How only the top shows and then everything slows down. Flip that around, right? Like basically the beginning piece is where all your time and effort should go. Okay. Anybody who's in sales, and I really hope that you've continued watching this video, because the diamond that I'm going to throw to you is the fact that and Jason's going to throw to you, is that put all of your effort and time into the beginning, and the rest of the sales process goes smaller and smaller as far as the time process goes. And basically the close is the easiest. If you do it the other way and you flip that iceberg upside down, you spend a little bit of time talking and connecting and building that rapport. As you go, everything gets longer in time and harder, and then the close becomes the hardest thing. If you totally master building a rapport and building that trust and doing it genuinely, your close is going to be the easiest thing, and also you're going to get way more business out of it at the very end.
Agreed.
So I thank you guys for watching. And if Jason has anything else to add to that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this out as a thank you to JVZ for the topic in one of our past videos. He left us a comment, so thank you. Bryce and I want to hear from you guys.
100%.
Leave us more comments.
100%, please.
Subscribe
we haven't picked one of these yet since our first one, so I'd love to keep that going and just talk about whatever anybody wants to hear about. So
yeah. So with that, that's all I have to add. I just want to say, please join Bryce and Jay's excellent vlog adventures in our next episode. And
yes.
We're looking forward to continuing to share our knowledge and drink some beers and have a good time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
All right. Thanks, Bryce.
Thanks, guys.